The coffee was always my job. For 23 years, the first sound in our quiet kitchen was the gentle gurgle of the pot finishing its cycle. That Tuesday morning the brew was especially dark. The way he always complained was too bitter. I watched the steam rise from his favourite mug, the one with the chipped handle, and realised my hands were perfectly steady. There was no anger left, only a cold, crystalline clarity. After discovering the secret he had kept for years, the man I had built my life with was now a stranger sitting at our breakfast table, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bones, that some debts of the heart can never be repaid. I fell in love with David for his big dreams. When we met, he was a passionate artist, his fingers always smudged with charcoal, his eyes alight with visions of galleries and installations. I was the practical one, a bookkeeper who found beauty in balanced columns and orderly spreadsheets. Our love felt like a perfect complementary dance. I handled the budget, the bills, the mundane details of life, so his creative spirit could soar. I believed in his talent so fiercely. When our daughter Sophie was born, the financial pressures grew. My steady, reliable income from the accounting firm became the bedrock of our family. David's art sales were sporadic, more a passion than a profession. I never minded. I took on more clients, worked later hours. I saw the extra money I earned not as mine, but as ours. It paid for Sophie's braces, our family vacations, the new roof we desperately needed. I was the one who transferred the larger share into our joint account every month, a quiet, loving transaction I never thought to question. The imbalance was subtle at first. He'd buy an expensive new lens for his camera, calling it a necessary investment, while I calculated the cost against the grocery bill. He'd talk about the sacrifice of his artistic integrity for freelance graphic design work, a career my networking had helped him secure. I'd listen, soothe his frustrations, and quietly pay the mortgage. I told myself this was partnership. My love was the foundation, his the beautiful, unpredictable decoration. I never saw the quiet resentment growing in the cracks, the sense of entitlement that was festering beneath his gratitude. The trigger wasn't a dramatic scene, it was a quiet administrative error. I was doing our annual taxes, a task that had always been my domain. I was logging into the online portal for our savings account, the one I primarily funded, when I noticed a discrepancy. A series of monthly automatic transfers I didn't recognize were listed, going back over 2 years. They were labeled business expenses, but the amounts were significant, $500, sometimes $750 every single month. My stomach tightened. David's freelance business had a separate account we'd set up together. This was different. With a growing sense of dread, I cross-referenced the dates. The transfers out always happened a day or two after my own salary was deposited. He was systematically siphoning money from our shared security into an account I had no access to. The man I had trusted with my life, my labour, and my heart had been quietly building his own escape fund with the very resources I worked so hard to provide. The foundation of our marriage, which I thought was built on mutual trust, was revealed to be a one-way street. I didn't confront him, not then. I felt like an investigator in my own life, a ghost in my own home. I started noticing other things, the way he'd quickly close a browser tab when I walked into his office, the new expensive watch on his wrist he'd brushed off as a lucky find. The emotional distance that I had blamed on stress was now clearly a chasm of deception. The financial strain I had shouldered for years began to feel heavier, more personal. I'd look at a receipt for the expensive organic groceries I bought because he preferred them, and feel a hot flush of shame. I'd sit alone in the living room after he'd gone to bed, the silence of the house echoing the loneliness in my heart. I had given more, paid more, loved more, and it had all been taken for granted, used as a platform for his secret-keeping. The final, crushing blow came when I was cleaning his office and found a crumpled receipt in the wastebasket for a diamond necklace from a high-end jeweler. My birthday had been the previous month. He'd given me a thoughtful but modest book of poetry. The receipt was dated just a week ago. The betrayal was no longer just financial, it was intimate. He wasn't just securing his own future. He was living a separate, secret life, one where he could afford luxuries for someone or for a version of himself that didn't include me. I knew I needed the full truth. A few days later, while he was out, I went into his office. This time I wasn't tidying, I was searching. I found a small locked metal box tucked at the back of his filing cabinet. I knew where he kept the key, taped to the underside of his desk drawer, a place he thought was clever. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a passbook for a savings account in his name only. The balance was staggering. It represented years of my overtime, my careful budgeting, my financial contributions to our life, all funneled away. But worse than the money were the pages of notes. Sketches for a studio apartment, a budget for living alone. A list of art supplies with prices, a dream he had never shared with me. He wasn't just saving money, he was planning his exit. He had been using my stability, my unconditional support to bankroll his future freedom from me. The power in my heart shifted irrevocably. I was no longer the betrayed wife. I was the primary investor in a company that was planning its own hostile takeover. I didn't cry. I locked the box, replaced the key, and went to the kitchen. I made a cup of tea, the familiar ritual grounding me. My goal wasn't a messy, emotional confrontation. It was a strategic, dignified reclamation of everything I had built and everything I was owed. My plan was not about revenge. It was about restoration and justice. I contacted a lawyer, a sharp, compassionate woman named Elena. I showed her my findings, the bank statements, the secret account passbook, my records of being the primary financial contributor for over a decade. "This is financial infidelity and concealment of marital assets," she stated calmly. "You have a very strong position." We decided against a dramatic, immediate filing. Instead, we crafted a quiet, powerful strategy. I opened a new private bank account. I began meticulously gathering every financial document, tax returns, my pay stubs, records of every direct deposit I had ever made. I changed the direct deposit for my salary to my new private account. I didn't drain our joint accounts. I simply stopped filling them. My quiet countermove was to cease being the foundation he was so carelessly undermining. I would let him feel the true weight of the life he had taken for granted. The confrontation happened exactly as I knew it would. A month later, an automated mortgage payment failed due to insufficient funds in our joint account. David came to me, panic in his eyes. "Sarah, there's a problem with the bank. The mortgage bounced." I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my tea. "I know," I said, my voice even. "I moved my direct deposit." He stared at me, confused. "What? Why? We need that money." "I know we do," I replied, looking directly at him. "I know about the $500 monthly transfers. I know about the secret savings account. I know about the diamond necklace that wasn't for me. And I know about the plans for your studio apartment." The color drained from his face. He looked like a man who had been caught in a lie he'd told for so long he'd started to believe it himself. He stammered, began to offer weak justifications about security and feeling emasculated. "I don't care about your excuses, David," I said, cutting him off, my voice still quiet but firm as steel. "For 23 years I have been the steady hand in this marriage. I gave more, I paid more, I loved more, and you used that generosity to build a secret life that ends now." I slid a business card across the table. "This is my lawyer, Elena. All further communication about our financial and legal separation will go through her." The power in the room didn't explode. It simply transferred, silently and completely, from him to me. It was a quiet, devastating realization for him that the person he had underestimated, the reliable, practical wife, had just calmly and irrevocably seized control of the narrative. The legal process was methodical and fair. The hidden assets were uncovered and rightfully split. I did not fight for vengeance but for equity. I received my fair share, a share that reflected the decades of financial and emotional labor I had invested. David and I are now divorced. He has his small studio apartment, funded in part by the very secret account he thought was his escape. I still live in our house, but it feels different now. It is truly my home, a space filled with a hard-won peace. The relationship with my daughter Sophie deepened through the ordeal. She saw her mother find a strength she never knew I had. This real-life story taught me that unconditional love should not mean unconditional financial support for betrayal. I learned that the most dignified revenge is not hatred, but the quiet, unshakable act of reclaiming your own worth. I lost a husband, but I found the woman I had buried for years beneath layers of compromise and care. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to finally close the account on someone who has consistently overdrawn your heart. If this emotional story about love, betrayal, and self-respect resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. For more calm, reflective real-life stories, like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.